Colin Baker, ITN, Northern Ireland.
Shot dead by an undercover army unit on Tuesday night. There were scuffles with mourners today before the first funeral for Henry Hogan, but no barrier gloves were...
Try anything. But there was tension, especially at the home of Henry Hogan, where Tuesday's gunfight started. The scuffles never became dangerous, but Republican stewards were determined to keep a distance between the RUC and the coffin itself. Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams directed the funeral and appealed for calm.
We're going to take this volunteer's remains from here to the church, to the cemetery, and we're going to do it calmly and with dignity.
When the coffin eventually emerged from the house, there was no attempt to lay black beret or gloves on the tricolour. There was no colour party, and certainly no volley of shots over the coffin. It seemed a tactical victory for the police, but pressure will now be on them to maintain their pressure at all such funerals. There were more police in the graveyard, and during the Mass, Father Dennis McKinley said, "This is a holy place. This church and these grounds are not a theatre for war. They should be the entrance to peace." The second funeral, an hour later, for Declan Martin was quite different. No tricolour, no IRA involvement of any kind. His parents had been very distressed to discover his role in the IRA, and although Sinn Féin leaders attended the service, there was certainly no oration at Declan Martin's grave.
James Robbins at Dunloy. After the discovery of a massive landmine in Cookstown, the...
confiscate terrorist cash and pledges...
U.S. policy is straightforward. We condemn violence, and anyone who practices, assists, or finances it will not be allowed to use America as a base.
Good evening, those are the stories in the news this Friday evening. Also tonight, money problems, what it costs to live in Northern Ireland, and ambulance men attack the Eastern Health Board over its proposed £2 million HQ. There will be music from gospel and rock musician Garth Hewitt, here to publicise the plight of the Third World, and the usual Friday night extended sports slot, which tonight majors in ladies squash, GAA and the martial arts. But first, the news. The police have prevented the IRA staging paramilitary funerals for the two provisionals killed during a shootout with undercover soldiers in Dunloy earlier this week. There were clashes between police and mourners at the first funeral, that of 21-year-old Henry Hogan, who lived only yards from where he was shot. The scuffles ended after pleas from Sinn Féin's Gerry Adams. The other funeral of Declan Martin passed off without incident. A report from Ivan Little.
Over 200 police flooded into Dunloy early this morning with orders to stop the IRA turning the funerals into a propaganda showpiece. In a tiny village like Dunloy, surrounded on all sides by loyalists, it wasn't as difficult a job for the RUC as it might have been elsewhere. They knew it would be virtually impossible for the IRA to smuggle a firing party and their weapons in and out of the village. But just before Henry Hogan's funeral was due to leave his Carnes Drive home, only yards from the scene of the shooting, a large force of police moved right into the estate, lining up on both sides of the roadway. But scores of mourners quickly surged across the road, forming a human barrier between the police and the hearse. At one point, onlookers tried to stop cameramen filming.
Told to move back. Just the other man, sorry. Leave the camera alone.
The trouble started as the police tried to surround Hogan's home. It wasn't until Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams pushed through the melee that calm was restored.
Turn your back to the RUC. Turn your back to the RUC and remember that we are at a funeral for a dead IRA volunteer. And we bury him with dignity. And we bury him calmly. And we won't be provoked by the RUC.
But there were more scuffles as the police moved into the back garden of Hogan's home, just in case the IRA did try to fire shots over the coffin there.